Welcome back to Hidden Car Gems, the channel where we talk about cars that make absolutely no sense, but somehow make you laugh, scream, and nearly crash at the same time. And today's car? It's not Italian, it's not German, it's not even from a brand you'd expect to build something insane. Nope. It's Renault Clio. Yes, the tiny hatchback you've seen in Europe, parked outside grocery stores, usually with a wheezy little four-cylinder and plastic hubcaps. But this isn't that car. This isn't the budget rental Clio you'd pray wouldn't break down on the freeway. No, this is the Clio V6. A hatchback that Renault decided to turn into a mid-engine, rear-wheel drive monster. To understand why this insanity even exists, you have to go back to the late 90s. Renault was dominating Formula One as an engine supplier. Their hot hatches already had cult status. The Clio Williams was a legend. And even further back, the Renault 5 Turbo was one of the wildest rally cars civilians could buy. That Renault 5 Turbo was basically the spiritual grandfather of the Clio V6. A small hatchback with its rear seats ripped out, an engine stuffed in the back, and handling that terrified even professional drivers. It was dangerous, unpredictable, and unforgettable. So when Renault decided to revive that formula in the late 90s, they dusted off the same recipe. At the 1998 Paris Motor Show, they rolled out a Clio concept that looked like it had been hitting the gym and steroids at the same time. Most people thought it was a one-off show car, but Renault was serious. Deadly serious. They teamed up with Tom Walkinshaw Racing, the same outfit that had built Jaguar's Le Mans winning cars, to turn the idea into a production reality. In 2001, the Clio V6 Phase 1 hit the market, and on paper it sounded amazing. The back seats were gone. In their place sat a 2.9-liter naturally aspirated V6 borrowed from Renault's bigger sedans and tuned by TWR. It made 227 horsepower and 221 pound-feet of torque, sent to the rear wheels through a 6-speed manual. The car weighed about 2,943 pounds. 0 to 60 took 6.4 seconds. And the top speed was 146 miles per hour. For context, a Golf GTI back then had around 150 horsepower. A Porsche Boxster was only a little over 220. Suddenly, a Clio was running with proper sports cars. But here's the thing. The way it drove was pure chaos. Short wheelbase, mid-engine layout, rear-wheel drive, no electronic safety nets. It was a recipe for disaster. Reviewers quickly realized it had brutal snap oversteer, lift-off mid-corner, and you weren't saving it. You were already in the hedge. Jeremy Clarkson called it completely mad and almost undrivable. Owners compared driving one in the rain to playing Russian roulette with 4 bullets in the chamber. And if you managed to keep it pointed straight, you still had to deal with a turning circle of over 42 feet, worse than a full-size SUV. But here's the thing. Despite all its flaws, the Phase 1 became a cult classic because nothing else looked or behaved like it. And with only about 1,631 built, some say closer to 1,513 actually sold, it was rare from day one. In 2003, Renault admitted the Phase 1 was insane to the point of being dangerous. So they launched the Phase 2. Still crazy, but more refined. They widened the track, stretched the wheelbase a bit, and reworked the suspension. The result was still wild, but a little less likely to put you into a ditch. the numbers looked better too. Power went up to 251 horsepower, torque stayed at 221 pound-feet, weight increased slightly to 3,086 pounds, and 0 to 60 dropped to 5.8 seconds. Top speed climbed to around 152 to 155 miles per hour. Now, the Clio V6 wasn't just hilarious, it was properly quick, and the looks matched the madness. The Phase 2 had arches so wide, it looked like the car had been stung by bees. Giant side intakes fed the mid-mounted V6, and out back, twin central exhaust pipes sat like cannons, blasting out a soundtrack that made it sound more like a baby supercar than a humble hatchback. Park it next to a normal Clio, and it looked like the evil twin that had just been released from prison. But let's be honest, it was still completely impractical. 2 seats, a tiny frunk that could barely hold a gym bag, terrible fuel economy, single-digit MPG if you drove it the way it begged to be driven. Tires lasted about as long as a paycheck at a casino. Insurance was sky high, and good luck finding a dealership that knew how to service it. Owners often joked that when they dropped it off for maintenance, mechanics just stared at the mid-engine layout like, "What the hell is this thing?" Production of the Phase 2 was even smaller, just 1,309 cars, which means across both versions, fewer than 3,000 Clio V6s exist in the entire world. For comparison, Ferrari built more than 17,360 Modenas. Volkswagen built more Golfs in a single week. That scarcity, combined with the sheer insanity of the idea, has made the Clio V6 a hot collector's item. Back in the early 2000s, it cost about $40,000 new. Today, clean Phase 2 examples regularly sell for $75,000 to $95,000, with rare colors pushing even higher. That's more than double, sometimes triple, the original price. Here's the bottom line. The Clio V6 was too heavy for a hatchback, too impractical to live with, and too dangerous for most people to handle. But it was also one of the boldest, most unforgettable hot hatches ever made. It wasn't built to make sense. It was built to make a statement. It was Renault flexing and saying, "We can build something just as crazy as the Italians and scarier." Today's hot hatches, Audi RS3, AMG A45, Golf R, they're all turbocharged, all-wheel drive. And ruthlessly efficient, precision scalpels. The Clio V6? That was no scalpel. That was a rusty machete wrapped in duct tape. It wasn't about lap times. It was about noise, drama, and chaos. And that's exactly why it's become a legend. So would you daily a Clio V6, or would you rather keep your life expectancy above 40? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe, because only here do we cover cars that make absolutely no sense, but somehow make history.